Who's starting this thing? We're live and we don't even know who's starting? I'm just kidding. This is Vince and Dave. I hope you got that joke. Hope you appreciated that at the beginning. I was waiting to see what was going to happen. As you can see, we have a lot of fun. We're all about joking. So anyways, this is Vince and Dave Live. We're talking about $1 million business, $1 million business ideas, $1 million ideas, and that's what this whole thing is about, is $1 million business. And I'm Dave Westcott, CEO of TransBlue. This is Vince Ortiz, Vice President of Franchise Development, and we are here to talk about margins.
Right. But you know what? It's all about sales.
It is all about sales. You got to have sales. You got to have sales to have margins. It all is about sales to have margins. But I think the big question to you is, what's the point in selling anything? What's the point in doing anything if you don't have good margins?
So true.
Right?
Yep.
I can remember, and just so that you know, this is not rehearsed. This entire thing we're doing, this is for fun. This is all improv. We don't even have bullet points what we're talking about. We just get in here and have a lot of fun doing what we're doing today. So, but we're going to talk about margins, and I think, margins are so important. And I wanted to start with just a little story, if I could. And I've been in the construction industry for a long time. I started in the landscape construction industry, and I can remember, bidding a retaining wall project, and it was a pretty large project. And, in the beginning, you don't know how to bid. Nobody's given you the secret. Nobody said, hey, go figure out your production and your materials and all that. And I had, about $7,000 in, retaining wall blocks, and I think I had $1,000 in other miscellaneous materials and some delivery, maybe around $9,000. And so I said, hey, I'm just going to double the cost. I'm just going to double the cost of my materials. And so, if I'm at $9,000, I'm going to charge, $17,000, $18,000 for the job. And that's how I bid the job. I didn't know how to do any better. And, we went out there and my guys knocked out the job and we were profitable and it was a good job. And at the end of the job, the customer came up and said, hey, your bid was the cheapest. I was, really? I was like, well, my slogan is faster, better, cheaper. So I think I hit the mark on what I was trying to do. And he's like, did you even make any money on this? And I was like, yeah, man, I made money. And I was like, well, how did you even come at this price? And I'm thinking, my bid must have been really low. So I asked him, I said, how low was my bid? And he was like, well, you were about 20% of everybody else. And I was like, whoa. I was like, that's crazy. But here's the deal. For me, at that moment in time, I made the money that I wanted to. Right. I was happy with the money that I made. For me, that was good. I put profit in the bank. And what I soon found was that when I bid retaining walls, I could bid them way higher. And so now, if I'm bidding a retaining wall, I might be somewhere between $25 and $75 a square foot. And back then, I was maybe between $5 and $7 a square foot. So if you start to think about, what that means margin-wise, it has a big impact on your business and how you grow. Because it doesn't matter if you make $1 million if there's no margins. Right. You own your own business. Yeah. Right? What did margins mean to you?
Oh, it was huge. I mean, we talk a lot, David, about the quick hitters, right? When you're starting your business, right? The base hits equal home runs. But at the same time, it's if you get yourself in a situation where that's why I was joking earlier about the sale, right? Yeah. Sell. Everything else is going to work itself out.
Right.
But that's just a really, I think, bad habit to get yourself into, because the gross profit margin is really what dictates ultimately your profitability. That's what pays the cost of sales or the cost of goods. That's what pays for your expenses, general administrative, And that net profit is where, you reinvest back in the business, but also what allows you to grow.
Absolutely.
What goes as owners into your own pocket.
Biggest lesson you ever learned owning your own business and margins?
Is don't get too caught up on, we joke a lot over here about how we like to win, how competitive we can be, and we love the thrill of the sale, right?
Yeah.
And that's great, but you got to also have that gross profit piece. I mean, to your experiences, I was involved in a pretty large project. I was awarded the 150,000 plus job.
Yep.
And it was really all about the sale. But what happens is, as you're adding expenses for the start of the business, the materials, the labor, unexpected things come up.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a good focus on what that gross profit, kind of the fixed number you're going to go for, right, and manage it the right way, I think you throw that out the window, because you can run like to your story. You can have a customer that awards you that business, but as a business, you're not making the profits you need,
Right.
to help you move you forward.
What happened to you on that job?
I wrote a case study about it.
Did you?
I did, and it was a case study really focused on. For me, it was taking on the wrong business without knowing that business.
Yeah.
Right, and then at the same time not having the gross profit in place, or my expectation of the gross profit I was going to have. A lot of unknowns, because I was new in that side.
Did you make money at all?
Very little.
Very little.
Very little.
Were you pretty disappointed?
Yeah, completely.
Was your wife unhappy with you?
She didn't know about it.
Oh, you didn't know about it. You hid that. You slid that one right under the rug.
Yeah.
You can only do that once or twice, by the way. You start doing that too much,
Yeah.
and your wife will catch on because you're crying in the bathroom.
That's it. Well,
Life's not going well. You wouldn't be crying in
no,
the bathroom
not
because
in
you're
the
tougher
bathroom.
now.
It was in the garage.
He was from the Clint Eastwood generation. You were crying in the garage. That's funny. That's a good place to cry.
Right.
But what are those drops on the floor? Paint. That's funny. Yeah, margins are so important. And I think when you're looking at any job, when you're starting with the sale, one, you want to align yourself with the client. So having a great margin starts with the client. Mm-hmm. Right? I can tell you that there's clients that I absolutely love to work for. And I think one of the clients that actually stands out more so than any other client I've ever worked for in my entire life is Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
And I was working with Wells Fargo. I hope it's okay that I say the name Wells Fargo on this call. But in working with Wells Fargo, one of the property managers said to me, he said, Dave, our services are so important to our brand. And he was taking ownership and responsibility for the brand. And, they've got many, many thousands of locations. Mm-hmm. And he said, we cannot allow our customers to lose faith in our brand. Mm-hmm. So the service has to be the very best. And that really sticks with you, because they're thinking about the customer experience through many parts of different construction, whether it's landscaping or construction or snow removal, whatever it is, they're thinking about that customer experience.
Right.
If you think about Costco, for example, and you look at the financials, Costco, they make a lot of money on their memberships, right?
Right.
Memberships is really where they become profitable. And, I remember doing some snow removal for a Costco. And he said, hey, man, we have to have this place perfectly cleared. I want it cleared at 3 a.m. when my staff gets in, and I want it cleared by 9 o'clock in the morning. Because the members would expect nothing less.
Right.
They've paid an amazing amount of money for their memberships. Mm-hmm. And for them not to be able to get into the warehouse is unacceptable.
Right.
And so you look at those two brands, and it's like, they have a higher motive mm-hmm. when it comes to the service that they're looking at, and they're really looking for that perfection. So your values begin to align.
Right.
Right? And you
right.
give them a price, and it's, okay, is it going to be good for my members? Mm-hmm. Is it going to work? Great. Not, hey, we want the lowest price possible. We don't care what the property looks like. We don't care if they trip and fall on the way in,
Right.
because we're all about the blue light special.
Right.
Right? We're not going to be about the blue light special. So you've got to align yourself with the right kind of clients. I think that that's a really important thing when you're talking about your margins. And then you've got to look at the job, and you've got to say, hey, this is right for me and my business. I'll just give you a quick example. We submitted a proposal to a client, and they had given us some budget numbers of where they stood. And we looked at those budget numbers and we said, there's no way that we can touch this. And so before we submitted the proposal, our sales team went to the client and said, hey, this is where our number is coming in at. And they said, hey, there's no point in even submitting a bid. They're not, the board's not going to go for it.
Yeah.
And so we looked at that. We looked at our opportunity, but we said, we're going to stick to our guns. We're going to stick to our pricing. But we spent, 3 or 4 hours putting together a proposal, a technical proposal that explained how we were going to do the work, the team member and their experience behind the work. And we submitted the proposal anyways. And what happened when they came back to the table a month later, we were awarded the business.
Yeah.
Because if you stick to your margins and you stick to what you know you can do, you're going to be profitable.
That's it.
There's no point in doing the work if you're not going to make money at it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We're talking about is walking away when the business isn't right.
That's right.
Right.
Not all business is good business.
Right.
If you can take one thing away from this call, if there's one little piece of gold, one nugget, not all business is good business, and you don't have to be all things to all people.
That's it.
Just be good at what you're good at. Just deliver what you can deliver on.
Yeah.
And make it the best, most world-class experience that is conceivable.
Yeah. Yeah, you hit it on the nose, Dave. I think the aligning yourself with the clients, again, knowing your clients.
Yep.
And knowing your value as a business, and not settling for less than that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So how do we track this? We've talked about it. What KPIs. What do you look for in KPIs?
I think for myself, I look at the overall profit and loss.
Yep.
You're looking at your revenue, your sales, right? Cost of goods, or if you're in service business, cost of services. You look at your GP at that point.
Yep.
And then from there, obviously, you have your fixed expenses.
And GP is gross profit.
Gross profit, yeah. Thanks. Yep. And you're really, what we're talking about is not giving up your gross profit. You want to stay consistent with what that target is, right? Is there going to be times you come up a little higher or you come in a little lower? Yeah. As an owner, you make that decision for what's best for your business.
Right.
It could be strategic, is a good example. But you stay true to your gross profit, your worth as a business, right? Consistently. And then from there, you're managing the business the right way with your expenses, your general administrative expenses, and ultimately it gives you your operating profit.
Yeah.
That's what I would look at. Is think of it this way. If you were to sell a project, and let's say it's at a low gross profit margin, how's that going to pay for payroll? Where's that? It's the hurt's going to come later on. You might not feel it right away, but you may feel it 3 weeks down the road. And ultimately you're in business to make a profit,
right?
Because you want to grow your business, reinvest back into your business, but also as owners, as you're growing to that $1 million business, it's reinvesting back into yourself and your families.
Right. So we talked about KPIs. KPI, key point indicator, right? We want to make sure that we understand, what that means and what we're looking at. And so when we're looking at that, some of those KPIs that we have are also our net profit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
We want to look at the gross, but we also want to see what we're netting.
Right.
Because we have a big high gross margin, but our net is not good, then, we got a problem. So, what we want to look at is we want to just make sure that net profit doesn't go below 10%. So if you're taking notes, if you're looking at it and you're looking at where you're at, you don't want your net to go below 10%. You want to stay above that 10% range.
Yeah.
In our business, we want to shoot for that 18 to 23% net profit, but at world-class businesses, roll 10 plus, right? That's considered world-class. The other thing is that we want to have a scorecard, and here's a shout out to EOS, right? We are believers in the EOS business system, and one of the things they have in there is a scorecard, and that scorecard is something that you look at on a weekly basis as a business owner, and that's the information that you need if you're on an island and you get one report card a week. And what do you think we want to see on there? Well, we want to see our gross profit. I like to see it as a rolling 12. I like to see where I'm at rolling 12. But you can have a fixed 12. I like to see my net. I like to see where my net profit's at. What are some of the other things we should see? We should probably see how much money do we need to bring in each week to stay alive?
That's it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What's our baseline?
That's it.
So we want to track that. Just talking about margins, of course, there's other things that we want to track, but we want to make sure that we're always knowing our numbers. Right? If we know our numbers and we can focus on our numbers, we know where to make changes in the business.
That's it.
You can also track trends.
Yeah.
If you look at it week by week by week, you can, if the decimal parts start moving in the wrong direction, you've got time to start making corrections, right?
Before it's too late.
Right?
Yeah.
The last thing you want to be in is in a position where it's like, oh man, how am I going to make payroll?
Right.
You've been there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So have I.
Oh, staying up all night thinking about it. Yeah.
Right? But that's not where you want to be.
Right.
That means something went drastically wrong months before, but you didn't capture it. You didn't see it. And so what we want to do is we want to have those KPIs in place, key performance indicators, as Vince says, key point indicators, as I say. We'll differ on who's right later.
Still KPIs.
We're both right. We just say it a little different. But it's really important to have those measurements in place on your margins.
Yeah.
Because without healthy margins, you can't grow the business. And what happens when you have healthy margins? You can pay your people more money, right? You can add benefits to your program. Right. You can have a nicer office, a nicer facility. You can attract better world-class customers.
Yeah.
Right? So, that's really, really important. What do you think any other KPIs I've missed? Anything that they need to have in there margin-wise?
Yeah. You touched on it. I think distinguish whether the type of business that you're at, whether it's a service business or a fixed business, meaning that it's like you have a price point already in place and it's just reoccurring. In a service business, it's even much more important because you're talking about, and we brought this up in a previous conversation, is that there's cost, the profits, and then there's cost then there's the cash flow projections.
Yeah.
Right. So understanding that those are two different things, because I think sometimes people think of profits as being the same thing.
Right.
But it's what you've alluded to, Dave, is that cash flow management on those KPIs and projection, where you're going to be at 3 weeks from now.
Yeah.
Right. You might have the cash in the bank now, and you may have things happen on these projects now, but where are you going to be 4 weeks from now?
Right.
So those are important aspects of the financial management KPIs, and I think that's really where it starts.
Do you do any kind of reserve account in case things go sideways?
Yeah, absolutely.
Put a reserve account in place. This is one of the things, I preach on this. Put money away.
Right.
Right? If you've got, 10% net, take half of that, put it into a reserve account. Put money away for a rainy day. Save your money. A lot of people right now are talking about the R word.
Right.
Recession. I even heard the president talking about recession.
Yep.
By the way, I don't like the little acronym of letters that says POTUS. I wish they'd just call him the president.
President, right.
But that recession, what happens in a recession? For those of us who have been around 2002, 2008, economic downturn, what do we know? We know that cash is king. right? And what happens when you're running a business and you're just doing enough to pay the bills, right? You're slowly working yourself out of business.
Absolutely.
So focus on that and have cash cushion on all your projects, all your jobs, everything you do. Set aside a certain percentage. I love the term cash cushion or cushion cash, but put that cash aside for a rainy day, right? Make sure that you're always saving, you're always squirreling money away as you're building that $1 million business.
Absolutely.
Because the truth about it is you cannot build $1 million business if you do not understand your margins. And if you're subcontracting work and you're putting work out there, you need to have cash cushion. If you're using suppliers, if you're outsourcing anything, you think about Boeing, right? They outsource everything. One of the biggest outsourcers in the world. You got to have cash cushion. You know what I mean? You got to have it. And a lot of times, your suppliers or your vendors, they might try to take advantage of you on the materials. So know your material costs.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Know what the nut, the bolt, the screw cost. Because that way you can talk intelligently to your suppliers and your contractors. You get better pricing.
Yeah.
Which increases your margins. Right? Do whatever you need to do to get those margins to an acceptable point.
Yep. And I would say, to add to that, Dave, is something we encourage, our owners about all the time is, if you don't have if you don't have that background experience or even that comfort level, outsource that work to a bookkeeper.
Absolutely.
To a CPA.
Strong financials. That's what you want. You want to have a strong financial standing, because without a strong financial standing, you don't want to build your house on sand. You want to build it on the solid rock. You want to be secure in where you're at. And if you don't have good financials and don't have good financial reporting, you're in a bad way.
Yeah.
You got to know where you're at and you got to get that stuff done. And, you got to make sure that you keep your finances, always on the front of mind. So that's margins. That's $1 million business. Any closing thoughts?
No, just be focused on that.
Be focused.
Be disciplined
on your margins. Be crazy about your margins.
Yeah.
And if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense.
Walk away.
Walk away. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to say no.
That's it.
This is Vince and Dave. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Same bad time, same bad channel.
See you guys then.